Hey, hi everybody. Thank you for joining us for tonight's information session about the National Regional Arts Fellowship. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're calling in from unceded sovereign Aboriginal lands across the country, each place with its own language, culture, and traditions. I'd like to acknowledge the waterways, country, and skies, and offer my respects to elders of these places that have sustained creativity, care for country, and resistance for more than 65,000 years. So my name's Thea. I am the grants manager at Regional Arts Australia. Tonight I'm joined by my colleagues Ros Abercrombie, Scott Howie, and Amy Firth, who will be looking after you in the chat and the Q&A. I'll be sharing some slides tonight, and we'll read out the content of each slide, and I'll also distribute the slides to you all after the session, so you can go back and reread them if you wish. Tonight's session is being recorded and will be published on our website. The session is also being Auslan interpreted, so thank you to our interpreters, Rebecca and Tiana. In tonight's session, I'll be covering a bit of background about the program and the application process, who's eligible, what kind of projects are eligible. I'll share some examples of successful projects, discuss the application and assessment process, and then we'll open up for some questions. If you have any questions as we're going, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A and my colleagues will endeavour to answer them. Any questions that they aren't able to answer, I'll go through at the end of my presentation. Please keep in mind that we do have limited time and there are a lot of people joining the session, so we may not be able to give advice about your specific proposal or answer detailed questions about your particular situation. I'll share my contact details at the end of this session, and I'm happy to answer more personalised questions over email if you have questions after we've finished today. So about the program. The National Regional Arts Fellowship Program is a strategic project supported by the Regional Arts Fund and delivered by Regional Arts Australia. The Regional Arts Fund is an Australian government program that supports sustainable cultural development in regional and remote communities in Australia. Fellowships provide guaranteed income for regional artists and arts workers to develop work, skills, networks, or research. In 2025, we're seeking fellowship proposals with a focus on economic, cultural, and/or environmental sustainability. We want to support activities that will help artists and practitioners develop sustainable careers. This might mean economically sustainable, for example, using the fellowship funds to develop additional forms of income from your practice. You might use the funding to learn a new skill that might increase the commercial viability of your work. It may mean cultural or community sustainability. You might use the funds to spend time developing ideas in the community or undertaking consultation in order to ensure your practice is addressing a required need or supporting the community appropriately. Sustainability could also mean environmental sustainability. You might use the funds to spend time researching or undertaking training in new studio methods and developing sustainable production processes. You might use some of the funds to buy new equipment that is more environmentally friendly. You might do research into the ways that your practice can fight climate change or develop activities that support regional communities through the impacts of climate change. Okay, the National Regional Arts Fellowship aims to provide guaranteed income for artists and practitioners to build connections, generate exchange, strengthen the national network of regional artists, artworks, and communities, and through doing so has four main objectives: to encourage and support sustainable economic, cultural, and environmental careers and/or artistic practices for regional and remote artists and arts workers, to support a diversity of art forms, career stages, cultures, and geographies, to generate strategic collaborative relationships for the benefit of arts and creative practice across the regional and remote arts sector, and to support quality and viability of artistic and cultural activity in regional and remote Australia. The program is delivered in two main streams: creative and professional development fellowships and early career development fellowships. The Creative and Professional Development Fellowship provides $20,000 to regional artists and arts workers to support creative practice or professional development with a focus on sustainability. In 2025, at least one Creative and Professional Development Fellowship will be designated for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander applicants, and at least one will be designated for deaf applicants and/or applicants with lived experience of disability. The Creative and Professional Development Fellowship is aimed at artists and arts workers who are established in their practice or career, who are ready to undertake research and development of their work, or who want to expand their practice through professional development opportunities or mentorships. In this round, 5 Creative and Professional Development Fellowships will be awarded with a total funding pool of $100,000. The Early Career Development Fellowship provides $10,000 to regional artists and arts workers who are in the early stages of their practice or career and have had less access to funding opportunities. It supports the development of creative practice or professional development opportunities with a focus on sustainability. In 2025, at least one Early Career Development Fellowship will be designated for applicants who are under 25 years of age. We understand that everybody's career trajectory is different. Early career does not necessarily mean that you are young in age, however, for some it may be. We would generally consider an early career practitioner to be someone who is within the first 5 to 7 years of their practice, or who has had less opportunity to receive funding for their practice. You may be early career because you've been working on your practice part-time due to work or caring responsibilities. Alternatively, you may be early career because you've had to take some time away from your practice. There are no hard and fast rules, but we will want to hear from you about why you consider your practice to be early career if you apply through this stream. In this round, 2 Early Career Development Fellowships will be awarded with a total funding pool of $20,000. To be eligible for a fellowship, you must be a regionally based artist or arts worker. To determine eligible locations, the program uses the modified Monash model. You can scan the QR code on this slide or search for Health Workforce Locator and enter your primary address to determine if you are eligible for the program. Any location code from MM2 to MM7 is eligible. You must also have an active ABN to be eligible. This ABN must be registered as a sole trader to your name and location. The postcode registered on your ABN must match the primary address that you enter into the Health Workforce Locator to determine your eligibility. The following applicant types are not eligible to apply: organisations, partnerships and trusts, employees directly involved in the delivery of the Regional Arts Fund, and recipients of a National Regional Arts Fellowship within the past 5 years. Eligible expenditure covers fees and wages, travel and accommodation, materials, venue and equipment hire, insurance, admin and marketing costs, disability access costs, and infrastructure or asset costs up to $5,000. These will only be considered where you can demonstrate that the purchase of assets is more cost effective than hire. The fellowship is aimed at supporting you to develop your practice and undertake activities that might not be able to be supported by other types of funding. It's important to note that the fellowship is not a project grant fund. As such, we're less interested in supporting distinct projects, for example, a single exhibition or performance outcome, and are more interested in providing you with funds to spend time in your studio or develop work. The majority of your fellowship expenditure should be allocated towards paying yourself. The fellowship is not primarily designed to top up funds for larger projects, and your proposal will have a higher chance of success if it does not rely on multiple external income sources. The National Regional Arts Fellowship is designed as an artist-led program. It supports the development of creative practice or professional development opportunities with a focus on sustainability. You can use the funds for any activity that will meet the objectives of the program. Examples of eligible activities include studio development, research or training, residencies and exchanges, professional or skills development programs. Addressing the assessment criteria. There are 4 assessment criteria that you must address in your application. At the EOI stage, we ask you to focus on criteria 1, 2, and 3. There are a number of examples provided in the program guidelines for how you might approach addressing each criteria. Criterion 1, impact, asks you to talk about how your fellowship will encourage and support sustainable economic, cultural, and environmental careers and/or artistic practices for regional and remote artists and arts workers. This criterion is asking you to explain how the fellowship will impact your career. Criterion 2, reach, asks you to explain how your fellowship will contribute to a diversity of art forms, career stages, cultures, and geographies. This criterion is asking you to talk about the uniqueness of your practice and how it's situated within a diverse regional arts landscape. We're not expecting each fellowship proposal to include multiple diverse art forms or career stages, etc. You may also talk about how your fellowship will create opportunities for the regional arts sector and/or your community. Criterion 3, support and partnerships, asks you to describe how your fellowship will generate strategic, collaborative relationships for the benefit of arts and creative practice across the regional and remote arts sector. To address this criterion, you should think about how your fellowship will engage the community, build your professional networks, or develop collaborations. You may also think about any benefits that your fellowship might generate for the regional arts sector more broadly. If you're shortlisted, we'll ask you to expand on your responses provided at the EOI stage, as well as providing an argument for Criterion 4. Criterion 4, quality and viability, asks you to demonstrate how your fellowship will support quality and viability of artistic and cultural activity in regional and remote Australia. When addressing this criterion, you'll be asked to provide an argument for the need for funding support for your project. Assessors will also look at your experience in your chosen field, the strength of the project's outcomes, and the viability of the project plan, timeline, and budget. In the following slides, I'll give a brief overview of 4 successful fellowship projects which cover a variety of different project and art form types, including socially engaged community practice, a writing mentorship, a physical comedy and performance residency, and visual arts studio development. This photograph is from Alex Wiss's 2020 fellowship titled Growing Connections, Strengthening Community in Drought. The image is captioned, Movie Night, Kapiti Resilient Farmers, and shows a gathering of approximately 30 people in a rural landscape at dusk, sitting on fold-out chairs in front of an inflatable projection screen. Alex used fellowship funds to develop a research framework that would allow socially engaged artists to better communicate the outcomes of their work and to the participating communities, funding bodies, and government. The fellowship involved a collaboration with 2 project partners and a mentorship. Alex partnered with Kapiti Valley Landcare through the Resilient Farmer Project and used this community-based work in the development of his research framework. The fellowship supported Alex to undertake deep community consultation with farmers experiencing drought. Upon the completion of the fellowship, Alex reported that this project not only allowed him to better understand the context of drought and disaster recovery, but it also gave him a better perspective on how the arts might uniquely contribute to community recovery and resilience. This photograph is from Haneen Martin's 2021 fellowship, which supported her to draft the manuscript of her debut book and undertake a mentorship. The image is captioned, "I hope I ask," and shows a square piece of fabric pegged to a string with a background of lush greenery. The fabric is tie-dyed with bright yellow and has the words, "I hope I ask the right questions," stitched in all caps, black lettering. During her fellowship, Haneen undertook monthly consultations with a mentor over the course of a year as they worked on the shape and thematic approach of the book. Haneen also used this time to consult with family members who feature in the book to understand the most culturally appropriate way to share their stories. Haneen reported that the support of the fellowship allowed dedicated time to focus on the project, and the mentorship built her confidence as an emerging writer. This photograph is from Anna Thompson's 2022 fellowship, which supported Anna to undertake a residency in New York City. The image is captioned Haute Couture, spelled Hawt, and shows a warmly lit, smiling person in an indoor setting. The person is wearing bold pink and black sparkly eye makeup and has a mass of colourful fabrics stacked on their head. The fellowship funds supported Anna's travel and accommodation costs. This multidisciplinary project explored the intersections of costume design, physical comedy, and participatory methods of performance creation, culminating in a performance at Mothership's Artist Salon. Anna reported that the fellowship provided a fantastic opportunity to gain a global perspective on clown teaching. Since returning to Australia, Anna has been sharing their learnings through community workshops across the Northern Territory. This photograph is from Anna Louise Richardson's 2022 fellowship titled The Good. The image is captioned, "The Good, Artist Talk at the Condensory, Somerset Regional Art Gallery, Queensland." It shows the artist standing in a brightly lit white gallery with a microphone. She's standing in front of a very large charcoal drawing of a flower on the wall to her right and is pointing to it while speaking. The profiles of audience members watching can be seen in the foreground of the photograph. Anna Louise's fellowship supported her to undertake an extended period of studio development in preparation for a large-scale solo exhibition. Over the course of a year, Anna developed a significant body of new work, culminating in an exhibition and national regional tour. Anna used a portion of the fellowship funds to employ a studio assistant, as well as paying for childcare so that she could have dedicated time in the studio to complete the work. Anna reported that taking the time to focus on this body of work, deep engagement in the site visits, and working with a studio assistant meant that she had time and money to make good work. The application process. We acknowledge that funding applications can be lengthy and take a lot of time and energy. The National Regional Arts Fellowship Program experiences a high demand, and so the application process has been split into two parts with the intention of lightening the administrative load on applicants. The application process for the fellowship is as follows. The first stage is an open expression of interest submission where any eligible applicant may submit an expression of interest. Second stage is shortlisting and announcement. The expressions of interest are shortlisted by an external assessment panel. Stage 3 is expanded proposal by invitation, where a selected number of applicants are invited to submit an expanded proposal. Stage 4, referees are contacted. Removing the need for letters of support, Regional Arts Australia will contact your referees directly for a testimonial. Stage 5 is assessment, where expanded proposals are assessed by the external assessment panel. Stage 6, announcement. Successful fellows are announced after due diligence checks are completed. Applications are invited in the form of written responses or an audio-video upload. All applications must be submitted via the online form unless alternative submission is arranged with Regional Arts Australia. If you cannot access the online application form, we will accept applications in other formats, including Auslan, audio, video, printed, dictated, electronic, and handwritten formats. Please contact me to discuss alternative submission formats if this is something that you're going to require. The expression of interest is designed for applicants to pitch a general idea to the assessment panel. Expressions of interest do not need to provide any confirmed partners, activities, or timelines. There is no budget submission. Expressions of interests will be assessed on the impact that the proposed activity will have on the applicant's practice or career. We want to know how the fellowship activity will change your practice or career for the better. Tell us how your proposed activity is going to make a significant difference to your future and how you will build your practice or career based on your learnings throughout the fellowship. Effective examples of impact will provide a clear argument for why it is important that we support you at this particular moment in time. The expression of interest process will allow you to pitch your idea to the assessment panel without having to chase down letters of support, confirmed partners or venues, write a timeline, or get quotes for budget lines. Your EOI will get assessed against the guidelines and against the other applicants. A small number of applicants will be shortlisted. A selection of applicants will be shortlisted and invited to submit a more detailed proposal. Expanded proposals will be assessed on the viability of the proposed project and will require confirmed partners, a project timeline, and a budget. At this stage of the process, we will contact the referees of the shortlisted applicants. We'll ask for a short written testimonial from each of the referees listed, and they will have up to 30 days to submit it. Shortlisted applicants will also have 30 days to submit their expanded proposal. The expanded proposal will focus on the viability of the project. The process has been designed so that by this stage, you'll be submitting a proposal very similar in length and planning to what you would normally be expected to in a single stage application process. The difference with the two-stage process is that you'll have a much higher chance of success. When assessing the viability of your project, assessors will look at your experience in the field, the strength of the project outcomes, the need for funding support, whether the timeline is achievable and realistic, and whether the budget demonstrates value with relevant funds. Regional Arts Australia will assess each application against the eligibility criteria, and then a panel of external assessors will assess the eligible applications for shortlisting. The same panel will assess the expanded proposals for final selection. Applications to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander applicant stream will be assessed by at least one Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander assessor, and applications to the stream for deaf applicants or applicants with disability will be assessed by at least one individual with lived experience of deafness and/or disability. Each eligible application will be assessed on its merits based on how well it meets the criteria, how it compares to other applications, and whether it provides value with relevant money. At the expression of interest stage, assessors will pay particular attention to how your proposed project meets criteria 1, 2, and 3, impact, reach, and support and partnerships. At the expanded proposal stage, the focus will be on criterion 4, quality and viability. We strongly recommend that you read the guidelines and pay close attention to the assessment criteria. Applications that clearly address the assessment criteria will have a much higher chance of success. In the last round, assessors noted that shortlisted expressions of interest very clearly articulated the impact that the funding would have on the applicant's future careers, provided a strong rationale for the importance of the project, and were supported by a high calibre of work, evidenced through support material. Assessors noted the high number of proposals that intended to engage with First Nations cultural content in the last round. Successful proposals in this field were able to demonstrate evidence of consultation, could clearly articulate how they would engage with ICIP, and demonstrated a high-level understanding of cultural safety protocols. Of the proposals that were shortlisted, applications which clearly focused on professional or practice development rather than project-based outcomes were more likely to be successful. The assessment criteria can be found in Section 6 of the guidelines. You can download the guidelines by navigating to the National Regional Arts Fellowships 2025 page on Regional Arts Australia's website. I also circulated a copy of the guidelines to most of you prior to the session, and will circulate a copy alongside the recording and the slides after this session. Thank you for joining us for the presentation. We'll spend some time now answering your questions, so please send them through using the Q&A function. The answers to the questions will be published on the Fellowship's FAQs page, and I'll circulate the link to that document to you all once it's been updated. If you think of a question after tonight's session, please feel free to get in touch with me by the contact details on this slide, noting that my work hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Wednesday, and 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Thursdays and Fridays. Please note that I'm based in Victoria, so I work during Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Please also note that support with the application process will not be available after 12 p.m. on the Friday prior to the submission deadline. Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen now and we can go through some questions.
Thanks, Fia. Just one question here that we can answer, best clarifying that it's applications that can apply. The question says, can you apply if you're employed by regionally based org, i.e. an arts worker?
Yes, you can, but you will need to have your own ABN. It's a very simple process to apply for an ABN through the Australian Business Register. It's usually quite fast as well. So yes, you have to be an individual to apply, and you have to have a sole trader ABN.
Thanks, Fia.
I just had one that I answered, but it might be worthwhile just bringing it to everybody. Does a fellowship project require formal external partnerships?
It doesn't require them. However, support and partnerships is one of the assessment criteria. So your proposal is going to be stronger if you have some sort of external collaborations, partnerships, engagement with the community, etc. Yes, I think without any of those, you may struggle to address that assessment criteria.
We're just going through a chat here. Scott's chatting in terms of a question around evidence of consultation. We're just asking in what context that consultation is, to clarify and answer there.
There's another one that's come in while I'm getting that clarification. You mentioned that part of the fellowship is to support artists' payment time in their professional development or project development. Is NAVA rates the best point to set these fees?
Yeah, Nava Rates is a great place to start. There's also other industry specific advice if you work in like live performance and theatre or in the music industry. I believe there's also some recommended rates for writers. So use whatever is relevant to your field. But yeah, Nava has a really helpful set of guidelines for payment for artists for sure.
So this question that I'm still it's asked to give an example of evidence of consultation. I assume that's when we're talking about development of activity that might be with a community or with
Oh
First
yeah.
Nations communities. That where that would have popped up from.
I would have said so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're working with communities that are not personally your own, so you're working with communities that you don't have personal connection to, it's really important that we can see that that community actually wants you to do this project and that they're involved in the decision making and delivery of the project. We want to make sure that when you're working with communities, particularly communities that are, I guess, underrepresented or especially through arts funding, we want to make sure that you're working with them in an ethical way, and in a way that they have participation. So we'd want to see that you have project partners who come from those communities, or that you have undertaken consultation meetings. You might provide a letter of support from an elder or a member of the communities, explaining their participation in the decision-making processes, or their support for your practice more generally, and that they support the direction that you're going in with this fellowship. This particularly comes up with people who work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities who are not Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander themselves. We really need to make sure that you're working within cultural protocol. And so I would suggest taking a look at Creative Australia's guidelines there, and providing a bit of a response for how you're going to work within those cultural protocols. Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
If you are shortlisted and have not yet confirmed partnerships before the second stage submission is due, will you still be eligible?
Yes, that's fine. Again, it may mean that your submission is less competitive than others who have confirmed partnerships. But we understand that that these fellowship projects are going to change, because we're supporting your practice more generally and not a specific project. We understand that things might change throughout the course of your application, and then again throughout the course of the fellowship as it unfolds. So yes, that's fine. I guess we would just note that assessors may preference applications which are have more confirmation, just because it will more clearly fulfill the quality and viability assessment criteria.
And the other one, I was just going to say, like, Fia, do you need a drink? If you need a drink of water or something,
Thank you.
I can
No,
answer this one if you need.
that's all right. Thank
You
you.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, is it possible to give an example of a practice focused outcome versus a project focused outcome?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think all of the examples that I went through earlier are examples of practice-focused outcomes. So in all of the projects that I shared of past successful participants, what they were applying for funding for wasn't to deliver one specific project, which would really not have any sort of, it won't be delivered again in the future. That an example of a project application would be you applying for funds to, for example, pay a gallery fee, pay for materials for one specific exhibition outcome, pay for marketing materials for one specific exhibition outcome. What we're looking to support is activities that are going to help your practice continue into the future in a sustainable way. So if that's not to say that you won't have outcomes like exhibitions or performances as part of your fellowship, but we want to see how those outcomes fit into the broader spectrum of your practice, and how supporting you through across this period of time where you might have multiple different outcomes is going to help you to build a sustainable career into the future. We want to know about your career goals, not necessarily one specific goal that you have to have one particular outcome. I hope that answers the question.
Just throw something in there,
Yeah, please do.
about thinking your application is about an investment in your practice and career, not in the investment in the delivery of something.
Yes, perfect.
Like the delivery of new work. New work, it's okay to make new work, but think about how is this an investment in your practice?
Yeah, that's really well put. Thank you.
Okay, there's a couple more here coming in. Louise is asking, should we line up venue presentation partnerships before or after potential shortlisting?
I mean, it depends on your time and investment. So basically, we've set it up so at the EOI stage, you don't need to line up all of these things so that if you aren't shortlisted, you haven't put as much time into the application. It's less of a hit on your administrative time. So my recommendation would probably be to line up those partners after you're shortlisted, because at that stage you have a much higher chance of success. But at the end of the day, that's a decision for you to make in terms of how much time and energy you have to put into the EOI stage of the process. It's not something that the assessment panel will look at the EOI stage. So it's not going to necessarily make your application more competitive at the EOI stage if you have confirmed partners, because it's not something we'll expect from everyone. So we won't preference it at that stage.
Thanks. There's one more.
Mhm.
With regard to an international residency proposal, like similarly like to one that was in the example, Anna, was that proposal also in collaboration with local regional orgs or collaborators?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So in the case where your main activity takes place overseas, what we would be looking for in your responses to the assessment criteria is how you're going to bring that knowledge back to the regional arts sector in Australia and how you're going to contribute to your local sector and community and your own practice as a regional artist, keeping in mind that you are a member of the regional arts sector. And so when you're talking about benefits to the regional arts sector, you can talk about benefits to yourself as a practitioner. So in the case of Anna Thompson's overseas residency, they spoke a lot about the benefits that they were able to provide to their local community coming back to Australia, sharing the learnings that they had learned when they undertook the residency overseas, and they came home and sort of shared that learning through workshops and other sort of community engagement. So I would suggest that is how you might look at answering the assessment criteria that are related to the regional and remote arts sector in Australia.
Thank you.
Is there a timeline available for the expected announcements? So probably the first one would be when would you find out if you've been shortlisted, and when would the successful fellowships be announced?
Yes, so the successful fellowships will begin from the 1st of August this year. And so we will be hoping to announce the final recipients in June. We have sort of a tentative timeline for notifying expression of interest applicants, which is around 4 to 6 weeks from the submission. So you would be looking probably, end of March to mid-April, we're hoping. As with all assessment processes, it's always shifting and changing. So unfortunately, I can't give a specific date, but that's the sort of general timeline that we're hoping for.
And just one more here in terms of geography or geographic eligibility. If you could just repeat just for Amy, the codes, the M&M codes that are listed, that are listed for people's eligibility.
Sure, yeah. So in order to be eligible, you just cannot be located in a metropolitan area. So a metropolitan area is MM1. Any other code is eligible, so they go up to 7. So MM2 to MM7 is all eligible. If you're located, if your primary address, the address that's listed on your ABN, falls into a metropolitan area MM1, then you will not be eligible.
And there is a like a something you can put in your postcode to and find out where you're eligible.
Yeah. So there are instructions in the slides that I'll circulate, but also on our website for how to use the locator. It's basically just a map where you type in your address and it tells you where you fall. So yeah, there's instructions available on our website that I can circulate as well.
I've also put the link to the Health Force locator in the chat.
Thank you, Scott.
Currently all quiet on the Q&A line. Oh no. So part of my fellowship supports my practice, but also that of a group of regional artists, as it involves workshops and training opportunities for that group. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. As long as you can demonstrate how that forms a part of your practice as a whole, yeah, that is absolutely eligible and would be a good way to demonstrate the reach and support and partnerships components of the assessment criteria.
Just waiting to see if any more questions pop up.
Here they keep coming.
So yeah, we did have a question just clarifying when our application's due, and
Yep.
I'm just confirming that expressions of interest close on Sunday, the 23rd of Feb.
Yes, that's correct.
And the next question here from Philip is the key dates, like fellowships begin from the 1st of August.
Yes, yep. So the key dates are on our website. I will just copy and paste them into the chat as well.
We'll do that then.
Oh, great. Thanks. It's just on the fellowships page under key dates.
And that's just a good pointer for people that there is on our website under the fellowships page, a lot of those dates there for you if you need to navigate after today. Just one question here. Does art infused in fashion can apply? So I guess, is there a sort of fashion art? Can that fusion happen?
Yeah, absolutely. When it's not an art form specific program, so you can apply with any creative practice.
And then the next question is, does craft-based art qualify? And I think
Yes, same answer. Any creative practice. We're not art form specific at all.
And a question here from Louise saying, if I were planning to travel to other parts of Australia, would I be able to draw on the knowledge of RAA networks in that state, e.g. for venues, etc.?
Yeah, sure. We're always happy to help you out with the delivery of your fellowship where we can. We work with what we call regional program administrators in each state and territory who deliver the Regional Arts Fund alongside us. So we could absolutely connect you with those organisations who would have networks in their specific states and territories. And we'll also, I guess it's a good thing to note that we also have a wonderful comms person, and we would also love to help out with promoting any fellowship activities that might be taking place over the course of your fellowship.
Just one question here about the report, if there are any reporting and acquittal requirements.
Yes, absolutely. Like any sort of grant, you will be required to provide an acquittal report once the fellowship period is complete. We'll mostly be asking you about it'll be really related to the information that you provide in your application around the impact that the fellowship's had on your career and where it's going to take you in the future. So it'll be a bit of storytelling, I suppose, about what you've been able to do as part of the fellowship, the impact that's had on your career and the communities that you've engaged with. And helpful for us is where that's going to take you in the future and how the fellowship is going to build your career.
And now we're just filling up with lots of comments saying, thank you for your time. And it's been really useful.
There's definitely that. There's a couple of others also saying in relation to how RAA is part of that fellowship journey. So checking in, what about checking in with RAA along the fellowship journey?
Yeah, we're sort of happy to work with you on what works for you and your practice in that sense. We don't have milestones as such. We're not going to ask you to sort of report to us along the way. We really want you to just have freedom and time to work on your practice. As I mentioned, we obviously would love to help promote and support you through the media if we can, or connect you where we can. We love to get updates, but we're not going to force that. It's really, we kind of work with each fellowship recipient individually, according to how much contact they would like to have with us.
Maybe we'll just give you a few more minutes in case people are typing or processing things. It feels like we're coming to a close. But as Via said earlier, you can still keep connecting with us.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, I'll send around the slides and my contact details. I will work on the recording tomorrow just to make sure it's captioned, and I'll send that around later this week. It'll also be published on our website. So I'll make sure you have all of the information from tonight. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Yeah, happy to answer anything that comes up over the next few days.
Oh, one last question. Can referees be from the regional arts staff? And I'm assuming that's Regional Arts Australia, which, but it might be different if it's another
Yeah.
state-based entity. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend approaching a Regional Arts Australia staff member for a referee unless it's really specific to the project. But having a referee from a state-based organisation should be fine. They're not involved in the delivery of this project or the assessment at all, so that sounds fine to me.
Thank you, Fia. Thank you, Scott, Amy, and for the interpreters, and thank you to the participants. Maybe, Fia, I think maybe we should
Yeah.
wrap up everyone's evening.
Great. That's been very efficient, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, again, just echoing Roz, thanks everybody for joining us, and thanks so much to the interpreters. Really appreciate everybody's time. All right. Well, I'll close this off for the evening. I hope you all have a nice evening. Hope it's relaxing, and you have an enjoyable week. And yeah, again, just repeating, feel free to email me with any questions. We're looking forward to reading all of your proposals. All right. Thanks, everybody. Good night.